Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Promoted channel. I appreciate you joining me today. Today's video is going to be hopefully very, very helpful. I've had a lot of people reach out to me on some resume best practices and how to be seen in the current competitive job market where you have applications in terms of quantity out the wazoo for so many positions so quick, and it just seems like it's very difficult to stand out. So there will also be a link in the description down to this cheat sheet to download for free from my website, as well as that same download will also come with some resume templates, or the email that is sent to you will come with the resume templates as well. And I'll cover what those templates are and why they're effective. And also, you could say, dispel some of the myths or some of the things that you might hear in this realm. So first and foremost, what I want to do is we will go through a variety of best practices. I'll give you some examples, and then towards the back half of this video, I will actually show you my actual resume that I just used to go through a job hunt. I used two different versions depending on what they were looking for, so I'll explain to you why I went for each of those versions and what the advantages and disadvantages were of each. So with that said, let's dive into some of the best practices, as well as let's start with one of the big quote unquote myths, which is the ATS compliance side of things. So there is no official ATS compliant, ATS certified. That term is more of a placeholder if used correctly, more than it is an actual stamp. And there are those scanners out there that will tell you your ATS approval. I would ignore those, and I would base it much more on real world experience. When myself and other reputable resume writers, career coaches, etc., are referring to ATS compliant resumes or ATS certified resumes or whatever, it's really that when you have the auto upload or the upload and auto parse side of a job application, that you should be getting 90 to 100% of accurate parsing in terms of your first name, last name, contact information, experience, job roles, time, etc. So it's effectively really just reducing the overall manual work in the application. Now, there is a keyword element side to this that does kind of play into that ATS a little bit. But again, there is no true stamp of approval. You're 100% ATS certified. I would focus on, are you using the industry language and things that you're seeing in the job descriptions? But the bigger piece is, how long is it taking you per application? If you are uploading your resume and you're having to manually fill out 50% of an application, either your resume is incorrect, which you will know if your resume is the issue by the volume, or it will simply be that maybe that company's system is atrocious. And honestly, from my perspective, what I just went through, if a company's ATS system or application system was taking more than 3 or 4 minutes, or once I learned a particular system, I would just say, nope, not applying here. It's not worth my time. I have too much volume to get through. So that is why I produced some templates out there, and they really, the key to know with the overall facade and prettiness and template, jumping into the first best practices, is going to be the aesthetics. You want your resume to truly be quote unquote boring looking. The boring resume is the one that wins. You want black font, white background, clear section headers, no graphics, no icons, no columns. You want it to be very, very simple and quote unquote plain looking. You want this to be easy to parse and section out for a couple different reasons. One is that ATS system, so that it clearly can delineate, this is my contact information, these are my skills, this is my experience, this is my summary, this is my education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you also got to think about it from the human side. The human element, I believe that the average hiring manager or recruiter reviews a resume for less than 30 seconds. So they need to be able to very quickly look at your resume and go, what skills do they have? What was their latest job title? What were their top 3 bullet points there? Boom, done, right? It's a few seconds. They can skim and get everything they need. So having the clean looking, quote unquote, boring resume is twofold. You do want it for ATS parsing to make your life easier as the applicant, but you also want it for the hiring manager, recruiter, talent acquisition, whoever it is that's reviewing your resume, to be able to gather information quickly. So now let's dive in a little bit more beyond just the general aesthetic. So let's start with bullet point crafting. So there's a couple things to note here. Some of these you may already know, some of them you may not. And hopefully if you already know them, then this is just simply a reinforcement. And if you don't, hopefully you learn something new. So the key thing here is going to be that you want all of your resume bullet points. You start with some action language. You want things here like pioneered, championed, initiated, achieved, implemented, designed. This sort of language that's going to show that you took action. A really good framework that I've been told here and also use myself is called CAR, Challenge, Action, Result. So the action part is what we're going to lead with. And then the challenge is what problem were you solving? And then the result is what was the quantitative or qualitative result of said action in solving the challenge. So in a single bullet point, you're kind of presenting a very, very, very mini story. Another thing with bullet points is you want them to exceed no more, or be no longer than 2 lines in your resume document. If you're getting to a 3 and 4 line bullet point, or your experience is listed in paragraph form, nix it. Again, this is going back to that the person reviewing your resume, respect their time. That's how this is going to come off, is they want to be able to absorb the information about you as a candidate very quickly. You need to understand that they are also potentially reviewing 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 resumes. And in that, show that you understand that and that you respect their time, that you can very concisely convey what it is that you achieved. And so if we wanted to give a very simple explanation here that people can understand, is something like pioneered a new marketing and sales strategy to penetrate a new market in a different state that increased sales by 15% within 6 months, right? So we have our pioneered is going to be our action. We have our challenge, which was the sales and marketing strategy to get into a new state or into a new territory. And then the result was increasing overall sales by 15% within 6 months. So that could be a very just simple, concise way. And then the reason you don't have to sit here and go into crazy detail on this bullet point is because that's what the interview is for, is that they're going to look at your resume and go, well, how did you do this? What did you do? What market were you penetrating? What was your customer persona or avatar? And this is where you can really expand and have that organic conversation. So that leads into the next part. So focusing on the result there is when possible, every time, quantify your achievements. Most positions, regardless of where you are, whether you are front lines, entry level, or all the way to mid leadership, senior leadership, executive, etc., it does not matter. You have metrics that are measured on your success. If you are frontline, this could be thing like if you're in sales, it could be cold calls made, it could be close rate, it could be revenue. If you're marketing, it could be leads generated, it could be click-through rate. If you're in manufacturing, right, it could be widgets made, it could be stamps done, it could be machine uptime. There's something. I mean, everybody has a metric of success. Otherwise, an employer doesn't know how to value you. They wouldn't pay you because they don't know what you're doing in order to provide value to the company. So when you can quantify it, you want a hard number. So again, sticking to that same example, that's why we said we increase sales by 15%. But not every part of your job and not every job in general is going to have a hard number to go off of. You know, maybe you are somebody who does a lot of automation and you may not have insight into that bottom line, but you can say that you are maybe saving personnel hours, or that you reduced the amount of hours it takes to maintenance, or again, you increased uptime. Even if you can't provide the exact number of increased uptime from 95% to 99%, saying that you increased uptime, that can be huge. If it led to awards that you got from your company or different things like that, throw that in there. So this is where you don't have, if you can quantify, but as a second, always at least qualify. Don't just simply make a statement. You don't want to just list what you did on your resume. Again, follow that CAR method, challenge, action, result. Provide that result, provide something that the reader could go, boom, I want Sally or I want John to do that for my company. That's how you want them to feel. Last thing is going to be relevance. And so this is tailoring the bullets to the job descriptions. And so my general methodology for this is to find somewhere between 3 and 5 job descriptions that represent things you would apply for. Look at the variety of language. Look at what the 80-20 rule is. What is the 80% of information that is the same across these jobs that you're looking for or applying? The 20% that might be unique to that particular organization is where you can actually take it or leave it. It depends on how much time you want to spend. if you want to spend a lot of time, or you're willing to spend a lot of time per application and reduce your overall application quantity, then that 20% is going to be the exact tailoring we're referencing here. Aside from that, if you're going for more of that shotgun approach, then you're going to want to take that 80%, tailor your bullet points to what's common across everything, and then submit that at virtually every position. And then what you'd really want to do is then use AI or something of the like to do tailored cover letters. And that's where you can really drill home into that particular company, and AI does cover letters impeccably well. It also does resumes very well, which I will also have a link down below for a AI resume writing toolkit if you are interested. But at a baseline, most people can get AI to at least do a cover letter, but you want to tailor to the actual relevance. You want to speak the language of the industry, of the role that is currently at your time. You want it to kind of sound like you, but at the same time, you don't want it to sound like you. You want it to sound like an industry professional that you are going for. So to recap here, for effective resume bullet points, start with the CAR method: challenge, action, result. Quantify your achievements. Second best would be qualify your achievements. Do not simply make statements. Do not simply list just what you do. And make sure that your bullet points are actually relevant to what you are applying for. If they do not provide relevance and do not provide context or transferable skills, if you're moving careers, remove them. That's simple. Okay. Now, one of the most never-ending debates of all time. Hopefully, this will no longer be of all time. Summary versus objective. Summary. Plain and simple. No ifs, ands, or buts. Objectives are useless. If you really think about what an objective means, is you're going to take 2 to 3 sentences to convey the purpose of your resume. Everybody knows the purpose in your resume. It's to get a job. So providing an objective is irrelevant. What you want to provide is some context to who you are as an individual. You want a few sentences that allow the reviewer, again, to quickly absorb information, right? So if we're talking, let's say it's 2 to 3 sentences, maybe it's 4, even if it's upwards of 5 sentences. If you had 5 sentences, a skills section in your latest position of 3 bullet points, that's maybe 20, 30 seconds of review, and the person knows everything they need to know, if not more. So you want to do a summary. This is even for early professionals, even for new grads. Summarize what it was in school or your education path or your certification program or your vocational school. Summarize what you are good at, what you are interested in, and what you want to take into the real world from that actual education program, right? It doesn't have to be a summary of your crazy qualifications. When you're early career, you don't have them, and that's known. So summarize what you actually found fulfilling and excelled at in your learning. So that's going to be the key here. Do not do an objective. Objectives are useless. Stick to your summary. Now, the key thing here that I'm going to say that was a big eye-opener for me was I was always tried and true summary of 3 to 5 sentences. I decided to experiment this time around from a job hunt perspective. Again, I told you I had 2 different resumes. Part of it was to target different aspects of the market, but part of it was also to experiment. It was to try and make sure that the latest trends and information I'm conveying work. So I found that actually, depending on what was being asked for, or I'll present to you even more the unique scenario, and it'll make more sense when I get to my resume, but that actually, in addition to the typical 3 to 5 sentence paragraph form, you can do a 3 to 5 bullet point summary as well. Now, I think the use cases for the bullet point is less about summarizing your career, but it's very good at conveying a variety of information. So I'll give you 2 scenarios. So my personal one is the fact that from a title standpoint, I have not held the title of manager or a true leadership title for very long in my career. I've been a team lead for 7+ years, but I've only been a manager for about a year and a half. And now I got a senior manager position and was offered a couple different director level positions. So that's where I'm at in my career, but you don't see that from the title perspective. So I use the bullet points to convey the amount of years I have with given directorship level roles within the IT industry. So things like compliance or things like cybersecurity or personnel management or strategy and business. So the fact that I didn't have the title necessarily, I wanted to convey the amount of years of experience I had in lieu of lacking the title. And that was a very successful strategy. The other one was actually a client of mine who had an insane array of experience. He was with a particular organization for very long. And so he had done HR duties, director level business strategy, individual contributor, personnel management, compliance, regulation, government contracts and funding, financial analysis and budgeting, so many different things. And he was going for a role. He wanted to narrow his overall scope. And so what we decided to do was list out, again, about 4 or 5 bullet points that demonstrated the experience with those particular things to make it very easy to pick out. So key things with the resume summary or versus objective: do not do objectives. Just do not. They are useless. They do not provide value. Summary, go with that. If you're going to go paragraph form, it should be 3 to 5 sentences, very concise, summarizing your career, your uniqueness, or 3 to 5 bullet points that are conveying particular specific information or years of experience with different aspects of your role in a very concise way. Okay, so going on to the next piece that is always commonly debated as well is resume length. Now, the key thing to note here is we are talking about resumes, not CVs. If you want me to do CVs in a different video and break those down, let me know in the comments below. But we are targeting resumes here. And resumes, if you are entry level, brand new in the market, we'll say 3 years or less, then you should be 1 page or less. Because you are simply providing your educational background, maybe your entry-level position, 1 or 2. You're not really conveying a significant amount of information, so you should be able to be very concise. Again, going back to that, being very respectful of the time of the person that is reviewing your resume. As an entry-level person, your resume should fit on 1 page, and that's going to really consist of that summary, your skills, and again, if you're coming straight out of education and that's really all you have from a professional perspective, summarizing your key projects, key contributions, those sorts of things. And if you do have 1 entry-level position, or maybe you had something before college and high school, working, as a cashier or something along those lines, then you're going to have 1, maybe 2 positions tops. All of that information should be able to fit on 1 page. Once you are beyond that 3-year mark, maybe even 5 is probably the most common, you're really going to be between that 1 to 2 page mark on average. Yes, it is okay to go to 2 pages. You do not have to stick to 1 page forever. Now, the key to this strategy is you should be sold in 1 page, meaning on that 1 page, you're going to have everything an employer needs to know. And the second page becomes optional reads or just simply showing that, yes, you do have 5, 7, 10, 15, 20 years of industry experience, or whatever it is that you're conveying. So once you're mid-career, like I said, about 3, maybe 5 years at the low end and up, you're going to be between 1 and 2 pages. And if you're senior level, then you're probably going to be 2 pages full, give or take, no matter what. And circling back to that first page on resume length, what that is going to convey, whether you are 1 or 2 pages, that first page will always consist of your summary, your skills, and at least your latest position. If education or certifications are crucial for your job, or again, you're still relatively new in your line of work, then you'll want to include those as well. But you should never drop any of those 3 in lieu of education or certifications. Again, that way a reviewer has every piece of information they need on page 1. Last thing before we get over to looking at some actual resumes here are going to be just some additional general thoughts. Be relatively concise. Again, we're sticking to that 1 page if you're super entry level, or 1 to 2 pages if you're beyond that. So in order to fulfill that, again, don't have bullet points that go over 2 lines. Don't make your summary 6, 7, 8 sentences long or 7 or 8 bullet points long. Your skills list, you'll see how I kind of have it broken up. There's some great way to format to get a lot of skills. You can get 20, 30 skills in a very short amount of space, or a very small amount of space or real estate on the resume. And having those bucketized and grouped together is also incredibly successful. Make sure your content itself is tailored to what you are doing, especially as you move up in your career. Once you are 5 or 7 years into a new realm of your career, so maybe you've moved from individual contributor into leadership, start to begin to remove those individual contributor jobs. Keep it relevant. Maybe you're just moving up in the individual contributor realm. You went from being a frontline desktop technician in IT to being a network admin. as you are ingratiated and really entrenched, again, that 5-7 year mark in the admin infrastructure type of realm, remove that frontline entry level position. Start to keep this cycled, and this will also help to keep that page limit and the information relevant as a whole. If you need to convey more for a particular job role, they want to see everything, then you can leverage a cover letter for that. And lastly, circling back to the very beginning, keep it appearing professional. Keep it black and white, no graphics, no icons, clear font, clear section headers, and just make it really, really, really clean looking. So I am going to show you my resumes that I just did for the job hunt that I went through. And so if we look here, yes, this is my actual resume. Yes, this is my actual information. What we're looking for here is up at the top, very clear contact information. Keep it nice, keep it separated. You want your name, your phone number, your email. If you have a LinkedIn, if you have an online portfolio, if you're something maybe in the creative or artistic realm or software development, link those sorts of things at the top. Try not to have so many links that you're going beyond, again, 2 lines. Again, you want to keep things pretty nice and concise, but it isn't unreasonable that maybe you have a decent sized portfolio, or maybe you're listed on multiple sites that are advertising different things. That's okay. Looking at the summary here. So here's an example of that 3 to 5 sentence paragraph form, right? So this is an example of that. It's nice, it's clean, it's simple. It lists out my years of experience, both technical and leadership. But going back to what I was saying before is, as you can see, if this provides a little bit more context to what I was saying, is my latest role, I was a manager for a little over 1.5 years before I started looking. And if you go before this, I was just simply team leads. So I've been lead since 2018, coming into 2024. So I had about 7 years of experience of overall leadership. But a lot of times, as we all know, there's challenges in looking for, we need that exact title or we need that exact thing for a certain amount of time. So I created this resume, which instead has the summary broken out into bullet points. And it was highlighting the key aspects of the commonalities that I was seeing in those leadership roles. And here's my years of experience with those given aspects across my entire career. So this was something that I found was incredibly effective at demonstrating that, and that recognizing the weakness in my resume was simply the fact that I had that title limitation and moving it over to bullet points. Skills here. So I mentioned you can format things nicely and bucketize them. So I broke things down into 3 separate buckets here. And it was my IT leadership, business, and communication. Because now that I am in leadership, these are what I want to highlight. My technical skills are a lot less relevant. And so these are the things that I wanted to convey. These were the things I was commonly seeing over job postings and over job listings. And again, the previously mentioned ChatGPT toolkit that I developed that's linked down in the description below, that will tell you exactly how to get this list of skills and exactly what is going to be needed in those job descriptions. And this is a total of about 30 or so skills that are represented in a space that most people wouldn't have thought to do. And the advantage to doing it this way is you don't have the columns. ATS systems do not parse columns well at all because they simply read left to right, top to bottom. So this is why I tell you to avoid columns. And this is where a lot of people do columns, is in the skills section, and it just messes up the parsing. Keep it nice, clean, and simple. Use a separator of your choice. I personally like the pipe, which for those of you that don't know, is the key above the enter key, shift, and that. Coming down to the experience. So the key things to note here are, this is a great way to convey promotions or title changes within your organization, and especially if they're very related. If your job duties didn't change a whole lot and it was much more of a title change than a functional change, then you can feel free to group them together. You don't need to create bullet point sets for each one. This is going to lead to generally a longer bullet point set. I do advise to not have any more than 12 bullet points in a given set. But as you can see here, we are always starting with action language: championed, achieved, directed, established, enhanced, so on and so forth. So going back to that original summary that I gave of how to craft bullet points: CAR, challenge, action, result. And so what we want to say here is we have our action, achieved, over 200,000 in savings, result. And then our challenge was that we needed to have overall product and licensing reevaluation. We needed to have vendor negotiations and relationships. And I also optimized the cloud services. So I actually had 3 different challenges and actions that went into this result. So that is what we're trying to convey here in a way to structure a bullet point. But you want to always start with that action language to be attention grabbing, if at all possible. And then you just simply go through all of your positions. And again, if I had formal education, that would be here as well. But going back to the way I ended the overall summary and presentation is this first page has everything that a prospective employer needs to know. How to contact me, what my summary is, what my skills are, and my latest job position, all on one page. And if they want to read more, they can, great, but they do not have to. This makes it very clear and concise. And again, during my job applications, which over my 6-7 weeks that I was in the job hunt, I applied to, I believe it was over 400 roles, might have been over 300 roles in that time frame, and 95+% got parsed completely accurately to where I didn't have to manually change a thing. So that is really the gauge that we're going for. Is if you're using a clean template, if you're having good formatting, you're having your good section headers, is how much manual work are you having to do per application? And that just makes your life that much easier when that's the volume that you're doing. Now, something else to note here is in this latest cycle, I also did get a 12%, just over a 12% response rate to my applications. What I mean by response rate is actual phone screens occurring, companies interested contacting me directly in order to leverage that phone screen. So this strategy and these templates, these best practices, they do work. It is that simple. Like I said, I always like to make sure that the information I'm providing simply works. I just went through it myself. You can check on my LinkedIn that I literally have a new job as of October. So if you have any other questions, if you have any comments, if you're still having challenges, please leave a comment below. Let me know if you like this video by hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel. And again, don't miss the links for the free templates and the AI toolkit down in the description. AI will help you a lot with your resume analysis, filling the gaps, and making sure that you are tailored effectively. Thank you for your time today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time.